Power utility, that is Eskom, and the consistent supply of electricity continue to be a cause for concern in the country. Earlier this week, there were protests in Alexandra after Johannesburg City Power attempted to disconnect illegal connections there. Some parts of Soweto have no electricity, and President Cyril Ramaphosa had a difficult time campaigning for the upcoming local government elections there due to this issue. Well, joining us now to discuss Eskom and other utilities, city utilities and electricity-related matters are Patricia Shezi, who is an activist, energy analyst Clyde Mallinson, Malusi Booi from the city of Cape Town, as well as Mashangu Xivangu from Eskom, joining us for that conversation. Thank you to all of you for joining me. So I think let me start with you, Cleopatra, there from the Soweto situation. Just give us a sense of, President Cyril Ramaphosa goes to campaign for elections there, and he's confronted, a frontal confrontation with the realities of electricity. Soweto is big, and despite what people say, it's not one township, it's many, many townships, that are adjacent to one another. But how would you sum up what the issues are around electricity in Soweto?
Okay, thank you, and thank you for the listeners at home. My name is Patricia Shezi, an activist. I'm also a member of Soweto Electricity Crisis Committee. So what our president was doing was just to lobby for elections, and I'm not even afraid to say that, because, for example, at Sunnyvale, Pinville, they have no electricity since from last year. They are now at 1 year, couple of months with no electricity. And they've engaged and they've called Eskom. I personally assisted them in trying to engage with Eskom to fix their issues. And my disappointment with the Eskom team, whenever they phone them, they will lie to the community to say they are coming next week, they are coming tomorrow, and they will never pitch and they never communicate back to the community. That is one. Then two, Eskom is trying to rip off us as the end users of energy. And we know for a fact that the energy that they are using, first of all, using coal, it's not safe. It consumes lots and lots of water, which as the end users or customers of human beings, we need that water. And they are not paying to use that water. So, and there were no popular education in installing the, well, they call it smart meter, we call it green boxes here in Soweto. No one informed the communities on how per kilowatt hour it's going to charge the end users of energy. And no one is educating even the community members on how to use that smart meter. And no one is informing the end users on why Eskom is ripping off their funds. For example, why one will say that I can recharge it today or now with 100 Rand. And when I put on the machine, it won't say 100 Rand, of which it's not fair to the end users of the energy.
All right, Mr. Xivangu, let me bring you into this conversation then. This is the perspective from the community, but just give me a lay of the land from your side as Eskom. What is your understanding of what the electricity crisis specifically is, in as far as communities that are supplied by Eskom, at least in Gauteng? As far as you understand, what are some of the issues? We can talk about the other back-end issues that have to do with generation, the old plant, and various energy sources, etc., the energy crisis, the broader energy crisis. But specifically, why do we have in 2021 a Soweto electricity crisis, a Tembisa electricity crisis, and other communities?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Simelane. Unfortunately, I did not have the benefit of hearing what the other participants are saying on the other side. I can hear you clearly, but I can't hear what the other people are saying on the other side.
Okay, I will ask the team to sort that out. It's quite important if we're going to have a conversation that the four of you should be able to hear one another. But just go ahead from your reading of the situation. What are the main features of the electricity crisis that we face, especially in high population density areas in South Africa?
Yeah, the biggest challenge that we've got as Eskom in the areas that we supply is the failure or premature failure of our equipment, especially the transformers that we use to supply our customers. And on investigation, we found that the reason for the premature failure of the transformers as well as mini substations is because those specific units are overloaded, number one. We have got meter tampering. As a result, people are using electricity indiscriminately because they're not paying for it. We have got people who are operating our equipment illegally. They are not authorized to do so. They are using non-standard equipment to operate our transformers as well as mini-subs. And that leads to the premature failure of our equipment. And as a result, it's leaving a lot of our paying customers without electricity for extended period.
Let me bring in Malusi Booi then from Cape Town, because, you know, you might be forgiven for thinking that, you know, this is a problem that you experience in Gauteng only, but actually you do have your own issues at that side as well. I know that there's an issue that has been reported in the area of Delft, Mr. Booi. Just give me your sense then from a municipal perspective. What are some of the main features of the electricity crisis in your domain?
Thanks, Mr. Simelane. I think it's across the country, because people who are doing the illegal connections are predominantly from informal settlements. But before I dwell much on it, I wish to wish the late Mamuini, Mamungujane, happy birthday in her rest, and may her soul rest in peace. I think she's one of the people who have advocated that those who are in the impoverished areas or people who are in the poor areas must be in a position to get basic services. And it's for that reason that I attribute this to her. So we get this in mostly of our informal settlements, people who get to do illegal connections. And we're trying our level best to make sure that we do some form of education to our communities, because there are two issues that are in the form of Eskom, as they are presenting. They are presenting load shedding, and the new term now they are presenting is a load reduction, which means that in the locality of those areas where there are major illegal connections, they tend to find a way of limiting some of electricity going there, because they are trying to manage their infrastructure, which is unable to carry what the illegal connections are doing. So it's something that is predominantly working in our mostly informal areas where they are connecting formal areas. Also, they are affecting those people who are ratepayers and people who have been registered with their meter boxes. So, but we are doing our level best to make sure that we alleviate that, because you may remember when the DA took over in the city of Cape Town, one of its major issues was to how do they address the issue of illegal connections. And that's why, as a city of Cape Town, we have given all people in the informal settlements, we have given them meter boxes so that they can be able to be regulated, they can be able to buy their own electricity, so that we can deal with that. But what is the solution? The solution is not Eskom, because all of us understand that Eskom has failed us. The solution thereof is us getting independent power producers to come to the fore, so that we are able to.
Mr. Booi, let me ask you to pause on the solutions, because I would want us to explore those a bit later on, but I do want to bring into the conversation Clyde Mallinson. Clyde, from your perspective, taking a helicopter view of these matters, of these various matters that have been raised. What's going on here? Why do we sit in 2021 with about 13% South Africans yet to be connected to the electricity grid? Eskom telling us that they connected 100,000 last year alone, but also even those that do have a connection to the grid, a lot of the times they are cut off either through load shedding, load reduction, and now this onslaught on the infrastructure of Eskom.
Afternoon, evening to Thulasizwe. Thanks for having me. I just wanted to mention that your audio is very loud and the audio of the other guests is very quiet. So I'm having to continually adjust so I don't get deafened by you, and maybe your technical people could have a look at that. Stepping back from the discussion at this stage, it's clear that the 13% of South Africans who don't have electricity are at a disadvantage. But the proportion that we forget that are almost at a bigger disadvantage are those who have connections, who simply cannot afford electricity in terms of the rate at which the price of electricity is increasing. So we need to recognize that there's a number of problems, and we need to solve these problems collectively. If we try and put them into boxes, Alexandra box, a Soweto box, a City of Cape Town box, we're missing the point. We actually need to step back and find solutions that to all of these problems at the same time. And I do have some suggestions with regard to those solutions.
Okay, fantastic. We'll get to the solutions in just a moment. I'll come back in just a moment with my panel discussion. You're watching the Intel on ENCA, and I'm in conversation with Clyde Mallinson, Patricia Shezi, an activist in Soweto Crisis Committee. Malusi Booi joining me from the City of Cape Town. He's the MMC there for housing, as well as Mashangu Xivangu from Eskom, just unpacking the issues of electricity. Politics around electricity is one thing, but solutions and getting to the heart of the matter is what we are all about here on the Intel. So stick around, that conversation coming back shortly.